Hello everyone, welcome back to Major Hi-Fi. I'm Luke. Today we have yet another headphone from Kennerton Audio. This is the ROGNIR. So Kennerton is based in St. Petersburg, Russia, and I'm not completely sure that I am saying the name of this right. My neighbor's from Russia, so I texted her and she was also confused, so no idea, but I'm gonna call it the ROGNIR. And I've done videos on the Valley and the Magni, also from Kennerton, so I will link to those below. These are definitely one of the pricier models from Kennerton. They run for $34.29. They are a limited first edition, so yeah. But I have tried headphones from Kennerton in this price range before, and they have been very impressive, and they haven't felt like a cash grab totally. So I know that they manufacture a lot of their own parts, and they just are very involved in the process. They design a lot of things from scratch and have some patents and all this stuff. So it kind of makes sense that these are going to be really pricey because there is a lot being put into them. But yeah, let's take these out of the box and get into it. All right, so here we have the ROGNIR, and it is packaged like all the other Kennertons I have tried. So let's take it out of the case. So here we have the headphones, and we're gonna take a much closer look at these in just a moment. But let me start out by showing you what else is going on in the case, in the bag here. So first of all, we of course get this leather carrying case. It's very sizable. You literally just put the headphones straight in here. It's got a really big pocket, to fit these. And yeah, it's a leather carrying case. It comes with a removable strap if you want to wear it around your shoulders, and it seems very protective and definitely high quality, as you would hope. We get a couple cables here. We get one that is mini XLR to 4-pin balanced XLR, and then this comes with a 4-pin XLR to 6.3mm TRS connector adapter, and then we also get a standard mini XLR cable to 6.3mm TRS. All right, so let's take a look at these. They have a pretty similar fit to the other Kennertons I've seen. It's this sort of slightly vintage, pretty minimalist look, also as per usual, very wood-centric. We've got nice wooden ear cups on all the Kennerton models. This comes in a variety of different finishes, and the one we have here kind of matches the table, actually. These are definitely pretty large headphones. They weigh, I believe, 406 grams, and they definitely are a bit bulky, so not going to be, maybe ideal for like on-the-go use. They don't feel excessively heavy or anything like that. Definitely not the lightest headphone ever, obviously, but they're very comfortable. They've got these big cushiony ear pads and this headband that automatically adjusts. It kind of comes out here and just goes onto your head. So if I put them on, I can't really hear anything, but they're definitely on the larger side, but they don't feel overly heavy. I don't feel like my head is being like weighed down or anything like that. They're pretty easy to get used to and just kind of forget about to an extent and just enjoy your music just like you would want to. These are Kennerton's first planar magnetic headphones, and as they say with all of their closed back models, it is supposed to actually sound close to an open back in terms of width. Kennerton actually designed their own 80mm driver for this from scratch. They wanted to combine the sounds of dynamic and electrostatic technologies. They said, quote, using several patent-pending core innovations, they implemented this magnetic structure onto the driver, which is supposed to basically reduce any excess resonance and, quote, unifies magnetic field distribution over the total frequency range. And these have a frequency response of 10 hertz to 55 kilohertz and an impedance of 42 ohms. So let's talk about how these sound. So to start off, I feel like the first thing I noticed about these was that they have a sound that feels very kind of particular and unique. I don't want to really pigeonhole them by saying an acquired taste or something like that. It doesn't feel like it's some sort of sound signature character that no one's gonna understand, but it does feel like they know their audience. They know that they're aiming for these kind of collectors, audiophiles, people that are very into this. It's a sound that maybe someone who isn't quite as well versed in audio might just find a bit strange at times, I suppose, but also they might not notice. I don't know. I don't want to sound like elitist or anything. It's not like that. I'm just saying that this is definitely an audiophile aimed headphone, not surprisingly given the price. But there were certain aspects of the sound that I just thought were very unique and interesting, and things you don't hear in a normal headphone and that aren't normally considered kind of like the normal in terms of how sound is translated. Let me just explain further. So first of all, per usual, Kennerton does claim that their closed backs sound much wider than normal and actually get pretty close, if not equal, to an open back, and that is true. They do sound incredibly wide for a closed back. You're probably not going to find a wider sound stage on a closed back headphone than you will with Kennerton. So So that is like, you know, checks out totally. But what these do interestingly is how much air and separation they add to the sound. You're able to pick out like reverb tails and, you know, sort of where everything is panned in the mix and all these different like subtleties and textures that you maybe hadn't totally noticed before, which I kind of say this about headphones a lot. Oh, I noticed this thing I didn't notice in a song before, but this was less so maybe about noticing sounds or details. It was more about noticing the format of a mix and of a song in a way that I hadn't really been able to see it before. You know, where you kind of realize like, oh, well, this is placed in a very particular area and these vocals sit in a very particular area. The sound separation is just very, very accurate and very defined. So that was sort of the first thing, was just listening to these songs I've been playing, you know, on repeat recently or whatever, and kind of hearing them in a bit of a different light, you know, hearing a very transparent, I don't want to say that they're like reference headphones or anything, but it just kind of felt like this very straightforward, honest, uninhibited presentation of the sound, kind of like the curtain had been pulled off. So yeah, it's a unique soundstage to me just because of how airy it is. Just there's like a very strong ability to feather out the song really well, and everything is really in its own kind of distinct place. And it's to an extent that I'm just not used to, even as someone who listens to a lot of, you know, nice headphones that do have good separation. This is just kind of on another level that at first was like a little jarring, where it was almost disconcerting. It felt like it was kind of exposing the song for what it really was, and not that it was exposing anything negative. It was just kind of like, oh wow, this is what this song really sounds like if you know, pull it apart and fan it out to this level, I guess. Hey guys, Luke here. Just wanted to pop in and say that if you're enjoying this video, it would be great if you could subscribe and hit the bell to get notified when we make new content, and hit the like button and leave us a comment if you have any suggestions or questions or anything like that. I would love to talk to you guys more. We would really love some help growing the channel, and, you know, just want to make sure that we're reaching our audience and whatnot. So yeah, any support is greatly appreciated, and let's get back to the review. All right, so low end wise, sort of similar to a number of Kennerton headphones we listen to, if not most of them. They're not super intense on the leveling, not a ton of sub frequency going on here. They're not trying to create that big rumble, that big booming sensation, because they want to keep a really tight grip on the low end and just exercise maximum control over it. But that being said, the impact is really where these go for it on the low end. There's a ton of impact and attack going on. So even without boosting the low end a ton, its ability to convey it in terms of like texture and attack and punch and kind of physicality, which is a word I've been using a lot recently, kind of the feeling that you are experiencing the drum or the bass or whatever, that you're experiencing it being played kind of right in front of you. It's able to do that really well. So I listened to, for example, Tame Impala's, what was the song? Reality in Motion. And I really wanted to test that when I realized how good these were at that, because that has an amazing drum track in it, in my opinion. And on these, the way that it translated that really nice kick drum in that song was so impressive. It was able to create that sensation that the kick and the drums and just all of the low frequencies in the song were expanding far outside the walls of the headphones. So a very cinematic low end that really is able to translate the sense of realism from any instrument that's going on in those frequencies. All right, so mid-range, these do have an accentuated mid-range, and it's definitely got some kick to it, some added spice, if you will. It's somewhat colored and saturated for sure, and maybe not excessively, but it's definitely a defined, distinctive mid-range sound to me. There seems to be kind of a steady bell curve that goes up across the entirety of the mid-range, from low mid to high mid, so getting closer and closer towards the middle, so it's kind of an equal boost of the low and high mid. The soundstage really does bring everything together extremely well in the frequency response of this headphone. It's a frequency response that I feel like maybe wouldn't work as well if they didn't have this special kind of Kennerton soundstage going on, and I'm sure Kennerton knows that. So the way that it's just so dispersed and airy makes this mid-range boost not any kind of like stuffy or harsh or resonant. It just makes it feel very kind of like present, like what you want from a mid-range boost, but you don't feel like there's, a point or a cutting edge that's kind of being brought out of the song along with its presence. If you wanted a recessed mid-range, then maybe these really wouldn't be in your wheelhouse, but it doesn't feel like this kind of like sharp mid boost. It feels like this very even keel boost and this just really nice lofty timbre timbre being given to the mid-range overall. I listened to a lot of the singer Neo, who I've been really into again recently. She has a nice kind of like pleasant resonance to her voice, and it carried her vocals so well. I was able to pick out the different textures of each individual note, you know, how her voice modulates from head voice to chest voice, and all that was just so beautifully translated on these in a way that really lets you get more of an intimate kind of experience with the song, and that's what you want to see from a really high-end headphone. So the high end on these are definitely a bright headphone, but the high end doesn't feel overtly bright, which is a word I like to use when I don't feel like I'm noticing the shine immediately or maybe at all, despite the fact that the high end is boosted. And for me, that means that there's a very natural high end going on that maybe to some extent mimics the sort of natural way that we perceive high end, you know, human hearing. This feels like it does a very good job of that, of not making it obvious that there is brightness being added, because it has a very smooth, fluid character to it. So we get that added detail, that intricacy, but there's no hiss or crackle or like unpleasant snappiness going on. And so of course we're gonna get that added texture to vocals, you know, as the mid-range also kind of adds, we're gonna get even more texture added in the high end. These are definitely a very good, like very textural headphone for getting all of those really, really fine details out of a song. But there's really no sibilance at all, which is, you know, always impressive to be able to bring that much brightness and definition out and leave all the sibilance behind. Big fan of doing that. It's maybe got a bit of a neutral brightness to it. It's definitely boosted, but it doesn't feel like it's gonna be this thing where I have to constantly be like, okay, just warning, this thing is super, super bright. And the high end in this is also getting some subtle sort of coloring to it to really soften that edge, like I said, and really just bring it into a very organic, that's the word for it. That's how it really felt to me in the high end, which is a really great high end response to have, because when you're boosting the high end way too much, or if you're just boosting the high end a lot, period, it's hard to get the sound to retain its kind of natural feel and not just sound overly modernized. And overall, Kennerton's headphones as a whole, and especially this one, do a great job of having sort of a nod to those vintage headphone sounds, but of course with many different upgrades and elevations. I've been listening to this band Jungle. They have a new song called Keep Moving. It's like very disco. Some of you are gonna hate it, some of you are gonna love it. You know how disco is. But on these, like the string stabs got this really nice sort of glistening coating on them, and we got some heightened kind of movement in the different timbres of the vocals. It just really brought the song to life and kind of brought it to the stage in a way. And it was just, yeah, it makes you excited to hear music, as a really good pair of headphones should. And the high end for me was a really big home run on these. So overall, the ROGNIR to me definitely feels like a sort of niche, just a very special headphone. Like I haven't really heard a headphone that sounds quite like this before. It does definitely, you know, compare to some of the other Kennerton models. It does have certain qualities reminiscent of, say, like the Valley or the Gjallarhorn with the way the mid-range is colored. And definitely the bass handling on it also reminds me of the Gjallarhorn and some other Kennerton models. But what separates this one, I think, is just sort of how unique the coloring is and how extreme the sound separation is. I think that that is what really sets this one apart from its brothers and sisters in the Kennerton, you know, family of headphones. So I just think anyone who really wants that sort of, you know, next level sonic performance and, you know, a kind of unique handling going on, you know, is going to really be quite happy to have this in their collection. It's a great headphone to have to kind of switch things up, give you some variation in, you know, your listening and whatnot, and just give you somewhat of a new angle, you know, to reframe things a bit and open up new doors in a song that maybe you didn't know existed. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Kennerton's ROGNIR. If you have any questions about it that I didn't answer, if you want to know how it compares to other Kennertons, you know, you can either read my reviews on those and go side by side, or just leave a comment and I would be happy to talk with you about it. I will also link to Major Hi-Fi's headphone ranking tool. We have all of the Kennerton headphones on there. You can compare them to one another or to headphones from other brands and all that kind of stuff. So check that out if you know, want to see if this maybe holds up to some other models from them that you've been considering or from other companies. And yeah, so I'll be back very soon with some more videos and reviews, and until next time, happy listening.